Hello everyone, Kaoz here, and welcome to another old school RuneScape video. Last week, Leagues 4 came to a close, and with a staggering 400,000 accounts taking part, including all the alts people used for different builds, it was without a shadow of a doubt the most successful Leagues event ever. Because a lot of people went super hard for that static dragon, rune, or adamant trophies, safe to say a lot of you are potentially burned out of the game. I know I was until I started doing different things to help out with the mental. So today, we will go over 10 things you can do to fight burnout in old school RuneScape, which applies to any moment of your journey, not only after a big event like Leagues or Deadman mode. Boys and girls, if you haven't already, make sure to hit the subscribe and the like buttons for the YouTube overlords. If we hit 100,000 this year, I'll go skydiving and share it with you. There's also a Discord link in the description if you want to come and hang out with us. As almost all my videos, the only disclaimer I have for you today is that these are just my personal top 10 things to avoid burnout, and some of them are not going to make a lot of sense at first, but they all have a particular reason as to why they are on the list. Stay tuned until the end for you to tell us how you fight burnout and a chance at a weekly bond. Finally, the list you're about to see is going to go from potentially least to most effective, but again this is only due to my personal ranking, and one could be better or worse for you depending on what you like to do. So without any further ado, let's begin. Alright, when I include these disclaimers in the videos, it's for things like these in particular. And it's because number 10 is to make a brand new account. Now, some of you could be wondering, why are we even making a new account if we are already burnt out of the main game? And that is a great point. You see, if you play an unrestricted main account, and if you are going through a grind or series of grinds you are already tired of, starting a new account, more specifically an Ironman for example, could potentially reignite that love and passion for the game we all have. As pretty much all of you know, any of the Ironman game modes have you gathering every single item you need by yourself, and that is definitely a great change of pace. This is further amplified by the group Ironman game mode, and by bringing a couple of friends to start a new adventure together, you can re-experience the entire game, helping each other out, and even providing more content with things like forfeits if someone dies, different roles you can swap out, and much more. It all depends on how creative you get with your friend. Now, if you're an Ironman already, you might be like, well, okay, this tip doesn't help me one bit. I wouldn't really recommend an Ironman make an unrestricted account because of that sense of difficulty being mostly gone. But hey, you never know if playing the game with the Grand Exchange available could feel like a brand new experience. The ultimate challenge could be making an ultimate Ironman and playing the game as an absolute masochist. Up next we have one of my favorite ones, going for a boss pet. I say one of my favorite ones because pet hunting is quite literally almost all I have left with my maxed account outside collection log slots and the Grandmaster combat achievements, which, spoiler alert, may show up later on the list. Going for a pet may also sound counterintuitive, and even more deranged to avoid burnout than making a new account. I mean, you're basically fighting the same boss over and over and over and over again for that ever so tiny chance at getting a blob of pixels following you around that will most likely end in your bank or in your POH. The reason I say this is because hunting for a pet in the game is one thing you can do for seemingly an indefinite amount of time. I don't really know how active you guys are on Reddit, but just recently there was a poor guy who went a little bit over 25,000 Zami KC for the pet. To you that may be the exact opposite as to how to avoid burnout, but hear me out. If you're hunting for a pet, you could do one of two things. Either limit yourself to a set number of kills every day you can play to make the grind feel a lot more important, or you could just go balls deep and spend an obscene amount of hours to get it. To someone like me, burnout is basically being able to do anything you want in the game, but not really feeling like doing any of them. And this is coming from a maxed main. If you have just a singular grind you lock yourself to, you don't even have to think about what to do, and you can just do your dailies to take a break and get right back to it. As a final note for this tip, you can also race one of your friends for a pet to see who gets it first. This is what I did for the Phantom Muspa after I started losing my mind, and when the race started, I was surprisingly more motivated to get a pet to tell my friend to sit down before he could say it to me. Just like before, you can put your own spin to pet hunting to make it more fun, and not suffer all the way through it. Up next we have something you are probably not going to hear a lot in any video talking about burnout, but I recommend learning at least the basics of PKing. More specifically, I would try the new PvP activity introduced in 2023, the latest version of Bounty Hunter. The reason for this is because it is a little more fair when it comes to account levels, but that's about it. You could still be matched with someone like Otoblock or Torvesta and end up in a PvP compilation video. The thing about PKing, more specifically Bounty Hunter, is that unlike PvM content, it literally has no skill ceiling, and the people are finding crazy new combos and techs every now and then. And hey, with more releases coming into the game, even more weapons and armor to try to defeat another player. The reason why I say PvP has a virtually endless skill ceiling is because you're fighting another player and not a monster or boss that will do the same movement and attacks in a pattern over and over again. When fighting another player, you will have to get good at predicting things like prayer switches, vengeance, special attacks, swapping combat styles, movements, and so much more for people who want to experience the sweet taste of a PvP kill. Lastly, the great thing about Bounty Hunter is that you're not just fighting for money. The store offers great items, mostly in the form of cosmetics, that will make your current gear look absolutely cracked. I will personally get myself the Dragon Claw cosmetic when I have enough points, and you could even invest in PvP specific items to become even more powerful and get even more kills. Okay, I swear the last one was the only one related to PvP, and we are now jumping into collection log slots. For your account, things like skill total level, quests, and achievement diaries are a great way to show account progression. Other than that, how can you show that you have spent a considerable amount of time mastering all of the content the game has to offer? Well, of course, it is the collection log. This is one of my favorite things to do when not hunting for pets, because it's something you can work towards passively, or even actively for things that are not reliant on RNG. If you really think about it, pet hunting is just another way to say collection logs, but of course, pets are a little more valuable in my opinion. I have done things like road to 1000 medium clues, road to 1000 easy clues, and the many master caskets I keep collecting when opening all of them at once. These are essentially old school RuneScape's versions of a loot box system, and seeing that collection log pop up when getting a new item is a nice dopamine rush after you complete your goal. If you have the money for it, both easy and medium clues are extremely quick to achieve if you get them from Gourmet and Eclectic Implings respectively. So to close this part, I would also recommend going for collection log slots that actually have a definitive end to them. Things like Castle Wars, the Tide Farm, Brimhaven Agility Arena, the Giant's Foundry, and so many more. You can fill up the collection log with minigame points and be done with them without the RNG factor. Up next we have a fun one, and if you haven't already, make sure to try and learn a new raid. It's difficult for me to tell you which one if I don't know your current progress, so let's imagine you have 0 raid experience and move up from here. Learning a raid is not only good to increase your overall skill and knowledge of the game, it can also be a decent source of profit if you get a big ticket item. It doesn't even have to be a mega rare, but other items on the list could provide a big payout for you and the team. And it will be great motivation to keep on going and making a fat stack of cash. Generally speaking, the Tombs of a Mascot is definitely the best introduction to raiding in the entire game. The intricate invocation system will let you do the raid with literal base 60s and items such as a Dragon Scimitar, a Rune Crossbow, and even an Ivan Staff, and if you have never done it, it's going to be a great stepping stone into more difficult content. The Chambers of Xeric is a lot more complex, not only because of the randomly generated layout, which is the only system of this kind, and pretty similar to the Gauntlet in Briffinus. I would heavily recommend starting this one with the guidance of a few friends, or even mentors if you can find them in different communities, because going in there with 0 experience can be a little daunting. The ultimate test is definitely the Theater of Blood. This one is almost mandatory to start with friends or mentors, because I highly doubt people will take you on their party if you have a very low KC. It's basically like a company asking for a work experience for an entry-level job, but to be honest, the skill ceiling for TOB is a lot higher, so it's quite understandable. Each raid has more than one difficulty, and if you want to learn more about them, I suggest you check out my bossing ladder video to see what a good challenge is for you. As a final note for this one, if you are already proficient at every single raid, an extra tip would be to take some cute noobs on their first raiding experience, as teaching content could also be quite fulfilling. And you can see their progress based on how your students perform. Related to the previous one, we have the combat achievements. Released in July of 2021, this set of tasks also provides a visual progress for your account, since you will be able to complete a complex set of tasks for almost every single boss and raid in the game. They are all about mechanics, speed, endurance, and a lot which require you to complete an entire encounter without a single mistake. Now, because of the recent changes to the combat achievements and making them point-based instead of needing to complete the entire category, we are met with both a positive and a negative. The positive is that it is a lot easier to achieve these tiers up to Masters, since you still need to fully complete the list for the Grandmaster category, making the rewards more attractive to players, because we actually have great ones for each tier, and they only get better. The negative is that, well, since they are now easier to achieve, this has a small chance on not truly reflecting the skill of a player, as they could have gotten past some of the harder challenges in each of the categories. I think right now it is even possible to achieve Master tier without even doing the Inferno, which to me personally doesn't make a lot of sense. One of my goals is to complete every single Master Combat achievement to actually give more meaning to my helmet on my way to that sought-after Zuck helmet. As a final note, if you look at all of the available rewards for every single tier of combat achievements, I'm pretty sure there's at least something in there that will catch your eye. For the lower tiers, we have things like pest control points, barrels not draining prayer, more cannonballs, and for the higher ones we have more than one Jad or Zuck for Tzar tasks, longer thralls, and more bosses on Slayer tasks. At number 4 we have AFK money making. So far most of these tips to avoid burnout feel like just fighting fire with fire, since you're still playing the game but different goals in mind to make the grind feel a little less painful. From here on out, we start with things that can actually be applied to pay as little attention as possible, but still doing a bit of progress in case you still want to escape. If you don't really feel like playing but still have that little itch to do something on your downtime, AFK money making is a great 2-for-1. You're both training and making money while you work, go to the gym, spend time with friends or family, watching movies, and much more. I have a great video going over AFK money-making methods that are guaranteed to provide great returns and are not click-intensive whatsoever. That video goes over how to make money with every single skill in the most AFK way possible, to the extent of each one of them, and here are some of my favorite ones. Magic provides a ton of these, but Plank Make has some of the best returns in the game under these conditions. Not only that, but it also gives a generous amount of experience per hour, and the great thing about it is that you can make it 26 planks per inventory, letting it run for the entire duration until you have to resupply. Up next we have AFK skilling and leveling. Now, the only difference between this and the previous one is that money is just not going to be an issue, and we are fully committing to as much experience as possible, while paying as little attention as possible. Just like before, I have a great video about AFK activities to train every single skill, and that one is a lot more recent compared to the AFK money making one. The great thing about it is that some skills are best to train while AFK, and it's definitely what you want to do during downtime. When I think of AFK skills, the first ones that come to mind are woodcutting, fishing, and mining. And for the record, I absolutely hate all of these with a passion, and I never look forward to leveling them up. Luckily, they don't need more than 4 IQ to train. Just sit at one spot, click on a resource, wait for a full inventory, and then either bank them or dump the items on the ground. Specifically, woodcutting and fishing can be done on mobile while working or doing something else, and I urge you to get it done as fast as possible. You have other activities you can do at minimal attention like agility, which is just clicking on green squares and picking up marks of grace, cooking and fletching, and with the recent addition to bonfires to the game, fire making has actually become an AFK skill, although slightly slower. So, it all depends on what you want to focus. A great tip I had on my previous Burnout video is one of my favorite ones, and it is limiting your game time. As an example, imagine I play for about 8 to 12 hours a day for some intense grinds. Eventually, I feel like not even touching the game, staring at the bank for a few seconds and then logging out. Now, like I said, this is just an example. I wouldn't even be able to play 8 hours a day nowadays if I wanted to outside of leagues. When it comes to limiting game time, I could set a timer for me to be able to play for, let's say, just 1 hour. Instead of dreading the grind because there's just so much to do, the challenge now is, how can I do as much as I can in just 1 hour? Just by writing this, I go from bored to feeling a little anxious, because 1 hour for me would be like maybe 20 Hydra KC, not even 100k experience in a skill of my choice, and most importantly, not being able to grind money for my next upgrade. Setting a timer for you to play for a limited period of time will actually put a lot more meaning behind your hours played, since you won't be able to do that much. Now, of course, instead of just 1 hour, you can start with 2 or 3 and see how you feel, but it all depends on how much you play initially. I know I am in a particularly different position because this game is quite literally my job, but if I was to apply this tip, 1 hour would definitely be more than enough as a maxed account. Once you are ready and feel motivated enough to come back, you can increase the timer little by little until you get back to normal, and can grind out a multi-hour session without feeling burned or tired of what you were currently doing. Remember, this one is completely up to your current playtime, and can definitely be adjusted depending on your situation. Last and definitely not least, if none of these work, I think it would be a good time for a much needed break. I've played this game non-stop since mid-2018, and made it one of my jobs starting May of 2021. When I created a community around my videos, I've seen many people come and go. Some of which have stayed with us since the very beginning, and others which were super active for a few months, never to be seen again. One of the things that makes old school RuneScape great, along with many other MMORPGs, is that as long as your account stays safe and sound, you can come back to it whenever you want, and either continue working from your last goal, or simply get a new one, or start completely fresh. Prior to coming back to OSRS after seeing videos by Devious, Alkin, Mudkip appear on my YouTube feed, I quit RuneScape in 2012 after making my account in 2005. And as we all know, you never truly quit RuneScape, you only take extended breaks. If you're feeling like you've hit a brick wall and you just don't want to continue, an additional tip would be to join a community like ours, again, link in the description, and see if playing with other people changes things ever so slightly. If it doesn't, there's absolutely nothing wrong with taking a break, no matter how long it is. And when taking said break you truly feel like your time has come, there's also nothing wrong with quitting this game for good. You can play other games, start going to the gym, go out with friends and family a little more, get a side hustle to make more money, and hey, maybe years down the road when someone mentions old school RuneScape, that little itch to play may reignite in you once again. Ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of this video. Thank you so much for coming and making it this far. If you did, tell me how you personally fight burnout in old school RuneScape, and if you have gone through it. If you include the term RSN along with your RuneScape username, you will be entered in our weekly bond giveaway for which we will pick a winner on Friday's stream. A massive thank you to all the people that have chosen to support this channel monetarily. I wish to continue providing entertaining content for you in the future. If you want to be part of this list of legends, click the join button next to the subscribe button and see all the cool perks you can get in the videos, in the live streams, and of course in the Discord. In the next one, we will go over what old school RuneScape has in store for us in 2024, as we will be discussing the Winter Summit and all the exciting announcements for all the content in the first half of the year. I hope you have an amazing day, have an amazing week, and I will see you then. Peace.